I can see you now. Okay. So my field is neurology. I'm a pediatric neurologist in sleep medicine and physics. That is what I do. The subject that we wanted to talk today is the biological effects of electromagnetic radiation in our everyday life. And let me start with a little introduction of how do we learn about this thing and what is the research that we did. So in the past, we have one question that we couldn't answer 10 years ago. The question, it was, why, if we in the world have so many medical doctors now, medical doctors with more than one specialty, we're digging very deep in the biochemistry pathways, why diseases are rising. The other question that we have is why treatments that we used in the past are no longer work. So we were really puzzling with those things, and that's how we started the whole revolution in this area. Being a resident in my early years, it was a disadvantage for me because I had to agree with whatever every single one of my teachers and every single one of the neurologists around the world said. When I graduated and I have my own practice, I started accumulating a few of the patients of my own, patients that I got the chance to follow up. And one of those patients, one of those type of patients were epileptic patients. In epilepsy, there is a lot of subdivisions, and there is one type of epilepsy that it's supposed that it has to get cured. Cure means that no longer those patients have to take medications, no longer have to go and see the pediatric neurologist, and the disease is not progressing anymore. Actually, it's cured. But after a few years, I realized that none of those patients got cured. They probably got better. The symptoms changed, and the main symptoms, epilepsy, they did change. But the progression of the disease keeps being steady in there. In those days, I thought that happened because I didn't know enough. So that's why I went to study my third specialty, sleep medicine. The reason is because every single one of those patients, and not just those patients, but every single one of the chronic ill patients have something in common, and that is sleeping problems. Because I was a pediatric neurologist with no training in sleep medicine, I decided to go back and study the sleep medicine. In that time, we start discovering that there's got to be an environmental toxin, something in the air destroying these restoration pathways. And that was very important because what is sleep? Sleep is the ability that we have to heal. Like I said before, we sleep because we need to restore. That's the only purpose of sleeping. And when I say restore, I mean activation of biochemical pathways during sleep that allowed enzymes, all the molecules that we have inside of the cell to get repaired. But different scientists around the world at the same time, we came with the same conclusions. There's got to be a toxin that is destroying these restoration pathways of all these chronic patients. At the same time, too, we came with the same conclusion that this toxin is an electric toxin, interfering with the electric system in those days, with the electric system of the brain. If you remember, the brain works because because it have nerve impulses. Those impulses are triggered by electricity, the brain own electricity. We have very specialized neurons in the brain. They have a biorhythm of how the electricity gets spread in the whole central nervous system. So we came with that conclusion. Hey, there's got to be some toxin in the air. This toxin, the characteristic of this toxin is that it interferes with the electric system of the brain. That is how we came with the conclusion that electromagnetic radiations, it was something worthy to see, to study. Because we medical doctors, we don't have any training in physics. I did decide to go back to college and study physics 4 years. The reason why physics it was important is because electricity follows some laws, and those laws are the laws of physics. So by now, today, having understanding in biology and having understanding in physics, we can make sense and we can answer some questions that in the past it was kind of impossible to answer. So that's how this trend of new research came across. So the summary of it is that electromagnetic radiation is a toxin. Thank God we pushed so much that in 2011, the Agency on Research of Cancer from the World Health Organization classified this new toxin, electromagnetic radiation, as a 2B carcinogen. So today, nobody can argue that it's not a toxin because since 2011, already got classified as a 2B carcinogen. 2B carcinogen means that it is dangerous for humans. It means that, let me just remind you, and I said it last time, what other things are 2B carcinogen that we know? Well, DDT is a 2B carcinogen. DDT got banned from the United States when it got the classification of 2B carcinogen. And it was easy for people to understand how dangerous was DDT because DDT actually, you can see it. You can see the cloud. I don't know, maybe everybody in there is very young, but I remember that we have trucks spreading DDT on the streets to kill mosquitoes. And we as kids, we used to go behind these trucks and get in the cloud of DDT. Well, that was not very smart from our part because it was a 2B carcinogen. We didn't know back then. But it's easy for people to understand that that is a poisonous thing because you can see it. You can see the cloud because it has this distinctive characteristic smell that it can get impregnated in your clothes and you have this smell in your nose all the time. So, and it doesn't smell good. So it was easy for people to say, yeah, I knew that was poisonous. The problem with other toxins classified as a 2B carcinogen is that they are invisible. It's either they're particles so small that the naked eye can't see it. You have to use microscopes in order to see them, or they're completely invisible to the naked eye. And when I said invisible to the naked eye, I mean that the naked eye can only see a few things. We can only see light. And this spectrum of electromagnetic radiation falls in the category of the light that we can see. So that is the beginning. That is how we start learning more about this toxin. After a few years, we start linking, hey, dosage of this exposure. In I'm going to say it like this. in the last 10 years, the amount of density of electromagnetic radiation has been skyrocketing the environment that we have. 10 years ago, we didn't have that many devices using wireless communications the way that we have it now. Pretty much now, every new piece of technology uses electromagnetic radiation and uses the air as a conduit. Whatever that means is that we have a receptor, one device that is a receptor, receives the signal, and another device that sends the signal. That way we can have right now this communication. Even if I don't like to use my cell phone pretty much a lot, right now we can have this conversation because my cell phone, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, something happened.
That's all right, you're good.
Okay, so we can have this conversation because this cell phone that I have in here is communicating with a cell phone tower. And that cell phone tower is sending a signal that you can receive with your devices that you're connected. So that is wireless technology. Nobody can see wireless technology because it's invisible to the naked eye. But now we have so much more technology like that. Even PS4, console devices, Apple TV. A lot of new devices have emerged using this wireless technology. Therefore, the exposure that we have is higher. There's a doctor saying whatever he did is he measured, probably you already hear about him, is a very famous doctor from Europe. His name is Oli Johansson. And he measured how much radiation our bodies absorb today comparison with 10 years ago. And he said it like kind of in a funny way. He says, do we absorb 10 times more today than 10 years ago? 11 times? He says, no. We absorb 1 quintillion times more.
Wow.
That is a 1 with 18 zeros of radiation going through our bodies because of all the amount of wireless technology that we have. So I don't want to just stay in that part now, but whatever I wanted to say is that 3 main organs in DNA suffer the most. We as, like I said before, we as humans, we are electric beings. Our hearts, the cardiovascular system that we have works with electricity. We have a natural pacemaker, and those cells of the pacemaker, they produce an electric signal and spread that electric signal all over the cardiovascular system in order for the system to work, to be able, something happened again. In order to have blood pressure in the way that we should, to have heart pumping the right amount, the brain, like I mentioned before, the last one, the third one, is the immune system. The immune system works triggered by electricity with some receptors in the cells called gated voltage channels. So whatever we see as researchers is that all these 3 systems, main systems of the human body, are being more affected by electricity, electric fields. Another doctor that I wanted to quote in here, Dr. Milham, Samuel Milham. He's an epidemiologist. Epidemiologist means study how diseases behave in a population. And he has this question: what would happen if we can? Well, what happened when we start bringing electricity into our cities? I don't know if you remember this, but in prior to 1917, we didn't have electricity in any city in the United States. In 1917, in New York, they put the first power plant to feed more than 2 houses. So whatever he did, he went to see the records. I want to see if people are getting sick after the plant. And whatever he find out is that 3 years after, can you
You're good.
hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. After 3 years that they put the plant in the air, reports of having high blood pressure were common close to the power lines. So he said, well, if that is true, I have to be able to trace every single one of those power plants that were emerging in those days. So whatever he does, he does some lectures, and he likes to show this way. He shows now the next city having an amount of raising of the high blood pressure, and the next one is Pittsburgh. And he says, guess what? Guess where was the next plant that they built? Well, it was in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. So whatever I'm trying to say is that we can trace how this electric and magnetic field have an impact. Impact that in those days, nobody put 2 and 2 together because, well, for so many reasons. But now that we can see in retrospect, we can see exactly how things were making sense. I guess that at the end of the day, whatever the message that we wanted to say is, 1, let's try to be aware. When probably 20 years ago, when I was a first graduate from medicine, if somebody were to tell me, hey, radiation from the cell phone, first, I don't think that I would understand that word, radiation from the cell phone. Are you crazy? Now I'm an advocate because in the last 20 years, I've been studying a lot. Yesterday, I was in a meeting, and they asked me, hey, what is the thing that you regret the most that actually changed your life? And I think that they got me thinking, and whatever I said is neglecting information. That's what I did when I was in med school. Because in med school, I don't want to say brainwash me, but anything that has to do with other types of medicine, chiropractors, naturopathic doctors, it was not acceptable for us because we are Western medicine and we're the kings in here. That was our position my position 20 years ago. And I think that neglecting information has been the biggest problem that I regret, or the thing that I regret the most. Now that I'm open to study more, and I took it to the next step. I studied physics. Not everybody studied physics after being a medical doctor. Now I have the understanding of how things happen. But I guess that whatever I'm trying to say is, the first thing is, let's be aware. First, let's be aware. If somebody says the radiation from the cell phone is not good, and you want to neglect that information, ask, am I an expert in that field? If the answer is yes, well, I want to work with you, because I want to work with that person, because probably it's going to come with the same conclusion. But if the answer is no, that person should be open to learn, to listen more, because whatever we don't know makes an impact in our lives, and then we pay consequences that we shouldn't if we have more knowledge. So being aware is one of the first things. And whenever I said being aware, I don't mean be scared. Being scared stops you from going to the next step. Mm-hmm. If I get scared of radiation because a doctor says that we have 1 quintillion more radiation than 10 years ago, and I stop doing things in order to protect myself, I guess that is the biggest mistake that we can do. But if I'm aware, no panicking, I can seek for remediations. We need to learn how to live with the toxins that we have right now. Taking a blind eye to the toxins is not gonna solve the problem. It's not gonna make it go away. The second is that I want to say, well, we have now people studying this field, people who are, I don't want to say experts. Can you hear me? Because
yes.
Now yeah,
you're fine.
But I think that there's more room for us. But we are people that have a lot of experience. That we implemented now protocols of how to measure, how to study it, how to remediate. Protocols are very important because we follow whatever the scientific patterns say. And having protocols allows you to know exactly pieces of information. So now there's people like Kelly and I, and a lot of more scientists around the world. Well, we are 267 scientists around the world. Every single one of us, biologists and physicists. So coming with these conclusions. The third thing is, if we're gonna, I guess that we should be seeking for these remediations in our lives. Whatever I mean is, we need to start living a new lifestyle. And probably a lot of you understand that feel from food. Hey, I'm not gonna feed my kids with a food impregnated with pesticides. I mean, nobody wants to do that, or not a lot of people do that. So we change a little bit of lifestyle, and we try to buy more organic sometimes, or at least we try to buy the things that doesn't look as scary. The other day, I have a guest in my house, and he got these Cheetos, or I don't remember, with a very bright red color. Well, it was like 3 in the morning when they called me that he was throwing up. And he was throwing up all these Cheetos with this bright color. So even him said, oh, I shouldn't eat that. That doesn't look really good. Yeah, whatever I'm trying to say is that we learn now how to live a lifestyle with less toxins. Just because they sell things in the store, it doesn't mean that I have to buy it. Well, the same thing has to apply now with other toxins. Like I said, and I don't want to sound radical, but I shield my house. And the upstairs of my house is one of the walls where I work is completely shielded. So my lifestyle says, hey, I want not to use cell phones close to there, because I know that if I shield it from one side and I have a cell phone in the other one, I'm going to produce a little bit more radiation that I don't want to expose my body to. So whatever I did is I came downstairs, because in here I don't have a shield, and I can use this technology. If you see, whatever I did is I changed a little bit my lifestyle, because I know how much exposure would I have by doing one thing, and how much exposure do I have doing another one. One thing that I want to say here is that a lot of people misinterpret whenever I said that cell phones are producing radiation, PS4 and things like that. I think that if we are very smart, I will say, we can live with this technology, but lowering the radiation. So whatever my house is we hardwire every single device. So if I want to watch TV, instead of using Wi-Fi as the source of internet, I use hardwire, which, by the way, let me tell you that it makes it faster. It doesn't have to browse or to load as slow as if it was with Wi-Fi. So, and the other thing, whatever is important for me, is I don't expose my kids to Wi-Fi radiation because learning all these details are the main focus on whatever we want to do. I work right now for the Department of Neurology and Electromagnetic Radiation. In my society, it's a medical society full with guys like me. We're not that many, but guys like me, whenever I said that, is medical doctors with training in physics. We came with some courses for the public that I wanted to share to you. We came with the conclusion that people don't take action because it is a new thing, a new form of toxicity that not everybody knows. But the other one is because there's so many details, there's so much information in there that not everybody has. And therefore, because they're not exposed to that information, they don't know what decisions to make. So what we did is we put online some courses directed to the public. Because we are a medical society, we put courses for medical doctors, for scientists, but at the same time, we put some courses for the general public. In these courses, we start with five courses. One of them is called EMF, which stands for Electromagnetic Field 101. I put it like that because it's the beginning. It's the first things that a parent has to know about this new signal electromagnetic radiation environment that we have. And in there, we divide man-made electromagnetic radiation and natural radiation. It's very important that people now start learning exactly which ones are sources, what we have in this universe as radiation sources, and we specified in there every single one of them. We make it in very deep detail, but very easy to understand for the general public. And whenever I said general public, is you don't need to be a physicist in order to understand all those things. So in the first one, we divide ionizing radiation. Everybody knows ionizing radiation, even if the name is very funky. Ionizing radiation is nuclear radiation. The radiation that we use for power plants, like Fukushima, like Chernobyl, and nuclear bombs. That radiation, whenever it's in the environment, is lethal. That is why it's constrained all the time. On the other hand, we have non-ionizing radiation. Communications falls in that category. And we explain what are the differences. There's natural radiation. In the core of the Earth, we have a geonuclear reactor that makes the vanillin rings. So we explain all those things in very easy details and very easy form to be exposed to this information. Some of the other courses that we have in there is one thing that is important in there is why we can see radiation, and we come with that explanation in there. We have another course for the public too that it tells you why do we sleep. What happened inside of the cell, what happened inside of the human body that is important for us to sleep. And let me tell you that it is very important. That's why we have to sleep every day. Every day we wake up in the morning. If we see under the point of view of destruction and repair, the human body gets, it wears out, but it restored too. It gets repaired. So we show in there what happened with enzymes. How do they get broken? What are the mechanisms to repair DNA? What are the repair mechanisms to resynthesize enzymes, etc.? Another course that we have in there is a course to show, hey, what usually we have in order of radiation in the area of radiation in our homes. Of course, in there, I use the data that I have. And right now, I have over 400 houses being measured in Austin. Mm. So, I mean, of course, all of you live in Austin, I guess, and it's information that is good for you. But, of course, this is a course that we have for everybody in the world. Not everybody lives in Austin. But I show in there what is an average radiation, type of radiation in Austin. Yeah. So I show, and we divide different types of radiation. What do we have in the master room? What do we have in this? And we have to measure the whole house, and we have to measure every single one of the rooms. Now, that is very important because if I wanted to put some remedies in order not to get exposed to so much, I need to know exactly what am I trying to defend from. So having this information is very important. The last one is how to read those reports, and we have another one. What would happen? What happened with the human body when it gets exposed to this toxin? And there, we rank toxins in a way that has never been done before. And not every toxin is the same. Probably a lot of you know about GMOs. I don't know. But for a few years, GMOs, it was scary for us as parents because we don't want to expose to genetic modified food our kids. But whatever we did is we classified. Are GMOs really important? Yes, they are. How do they destroy DNA? Oh, well, it turns out that GMOs don't destroy DNA. So we classified what they do, how do they do it, what is the exposure that we have to have, that we must have in order to have this damage. We classified the most important toxins, and we came with the conclusion that there's 3 toxins that destroy restoration pathways during sleep, which at the end of the day is the most important thing for me in particular, because I'm a neurologist and because I'm a sleep medicine doctor. It should be important for everybody, every other specialty, because the power that we have to heal lays on the way that we restore during sleep. So if I wanted to heal, I need to pay attention in the restoration pathways. So we describe in there the 3 main toxins that destroy these restoration pathways. The number 1 is electromagnetic radiation. It breaks DNA. It stops the activation of these biochemical pathways and gated voltage channels. The second one is the water. Because at the beginning, we biologists, we didn't understand the physical properties of the water. We didn't pay attention. As long as it's water, filtrated, we're good. Well, it turns out that it's not that simple. If chemicals change the composition of the water, and whenever I said the composition, the way that the electrons of the oxygen, let's remember, water is H, hydrogen, two atoms of hydrogen bond with one atom of oxygen. Well, when I said that the chemicals change the composition, whatever I mean is that they change how these electrons on the oxygen are floating around the oxygen. So now that's information that we have. Not all the water has the compositions that we need to hydrate our bodies. So what is hydration? Hydration means that I have the right type of water to neutralize some toxins that we produce in the body. When we don't have the right type of water, then this neutralization doesn't happen, and more poisoning is happening inside the body. We mentioned those things there. The third one is what we use to cook. Teflon. Teflon is polytetrafluoroethylene. Polytetrafluoroethylene is a terrible toxin that peels off from the pots and pans. And it goes to our food, and we eat that food. So once that we eat that food, it starts destroying this restoration pathway. So I will encourage you to actually take those courses. I will hope that you can do it. I don't know how we're doing on time, and if you have any questions.
I do. How do we take those courses?
It's online, and you have to go to www, and I'm going to say the initials.
Okay.
NASMS.
Okay.
.online. That's
okay.
it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
It stands for North American Sleep Medicine Society .online.
Okay. Great. That's excellent. And can you leave us with 3 simple things that we can do to eliminate, say, in the next day or two, some EMFs or improve?
Yeah. One thing it would be convenient is try to unplug every appliance or every electronic devices that you're not using. One thing, like the cell phone. Sometimes we plug in the cell phone and we leave the cell phone plugged in the whole entire night. Well, that's not good for the cell phone, for the battery of the cell phone, but also it produces a lot of dirty electricity in the house. If we're not going to use the blender, let's try to unplug it because it produces dirty electricity. So that would be one thing that it costs $0. It's not as difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not using something, unplug it.
Okay.
Another thing is when you're not using any devices like the printer, but you have it on and you know that you're not going to use it, let's disable the wireless communications. It's kind of like a switch on, and whenever you have to use it, turn it on. Because if you're not using it, but the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth is on, is broadcasting radiation into your house, and it shouldn't.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So the most that we can put things in airplane mode, the better.
Great.
I think that limiting kids to use iPads and cell phones. Let me tell you one thing that happened that I'm really proud about. 2 months ago, France passed a law. By law, you cannot have a cell phone if you're under age of 15. So last time that I have this conference with you, I was telling you that France is taking a huge lead on how to legislate against radiation.
Mm-hmm.
In those days, whatever they did is they passed a law that they don't have Wi-Fi in schools with kids under the age of 3. Well, they went beyond now. So 2 months ago, they passed a law that no kid can have a cell phone if they're under the age of 15.
Throughout all of the U.S.?
And no, it's France.
Oh, in France. Okay, I was like, I didn't hear about
France.
that.
It should be the U.S.
Yeah, it should be.
Probably you don't get exposed to this information, but I do follow these things.
Right.
Right now in the U.S., we are in the 3rd year in a row where lifespan has been decreasing.
Mm-hmm.
So that is information that we have that we should pay more attention.
Mm-hmm.
If we have good medical system, if we're the most powerful nation in the world, why is the lifespan decreasing? What is happening? So we should be a little bit more critical of the things that we see.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that the last thing that I want to say is, hey, if your kids are going to use the cell phone and they're going to have it no matter what, let's try not to put it as close as close to the body.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not use the cell phone in the pockets. Let's not put them in there.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have my cell phone, if I put 8 inches, if I have 8 inches away my cell phone from my body, the amount of radiation is going to reduce. It's not going to reduce that much, but I mean, I'll take whatever of reduction. So by implementing a little tiny things, we can get less exposure. I guess that those would be a few things that you can do right away,
mm-hmm.
and it costs $0. That's the cool thing.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to let the CC4C families know that we will help with if you want Dr. Ritter to come out to your house to look at Wi-Fi, the EMF exposure throughout your house, that we will help fund that. And is wanted to check to see if anybody else had any questions. If you're on mute, you can unmute yourself.
Probably a lot of questions are going to emerge when you get more exposure.
Yes.
So,
and I know a lot of people wanted to be on this, but they, it's a hard time of the day, some during the week, and a lot of them working. So I've recorded this and I'm going to put it on our website. And so that there'll be other families that will go and we'll listen to this later on. So I certainly appreciate you being here and helping us figure out how to be healthier in this time where we're being exposed to so much, so many EMFs and all the 5G that's come out and all that. So I certainly appreciate it. And sorry about the technical difficulties.
It's my pleasure. So I hope that I can see you soon too.
Okay. Well, great. Well, I'll put your contact information up on with our website with this video that goes up, and I'll send it out to all the families, the recording, so that everyone has a chance to hear it. But thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll have you on again sometime soon.
Okay.
All right.
It's a pleasure.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All in the meeting. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.